There was a massive showdown today, both in Karnataka as well as in Kerala. The showdown in Karnataka was undertaken by the BJP against the Waqf Board usurping properties that belong to private individuals. In Kerala, the Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan was forced to call a meeting of all stakeholders after the Waqf claimed some acres of land in an island called Munambam, which is off the coast of Cochin, which has been inhabited by Christian residents for a number of years now. Now, the question is, in both of these instances, whether it is in Karnataka or in Kerala, it sheds a light on the oversized influence of the Waqf Board when it comes to land dealings vis-a-vis private individuals. The point is, should a private body, remember the Waqf is not a government-oriented body or a government-authorized body, it's a private body of individuals, have this kind of oversized control over land holdings. Now, according to some estimates, the Waqf controls somewhere over 1 lakh crores worth of property across the length and breadth of this country. The question is, should the board of private individuals have this kind of power? Should, if they come into contact or conflict with land that is being held by private individuals, be deemed by courts of law, as opposed to having this almost arbitrary sort of diktat that it cannot be contested in a court of law? And most importantly, should the government step in now to try and rein in the powers of this oversized individuals, this oversized Waqf Board entities? But first, the story of what happened both in Karnataka and in Kerala.
विधान सौदा भी अपना है, अभी हम क्लेम नहीं कर रहा है, आने वाले दिन में हम क्लेम करेंगे। ऐसा बोलने का ताकत हिम्मत तो कहां से मिला? वो बिल के वजह से मिला।
What issue also yes, that's also all bogus issues, all bogus issues.
अब वो लगातार इस बात की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि आप इसकी डेट बढ़ाई जाए या इसका एक्सटेंशन हो।
बहुत सारे चीज़ में कंपैरेटिव स्टडीज़ करने की ज़रूरत है, स्टेक होल्डर से बात करने की ज़रूरत हो, तो वो प्रॉपरली स्टडी करें, या ऐसा नहीं कि एक बिल लेके आए कल जुडिशरी में जो है इसको स्टक डाउन कर दें।
All right, so is this patronage? Is that patronage leading to some kind of usurping of land? Rohan Gupta, spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Vivek Bansal, leader of the Congress. Ishkaran Singh Bhandari, advocate with the Supreme Court, will also be joining us. Let me start with you, Rohan Gupta. So the contention by the Congress, the other opposition parties is you're just making this a communal issue, saying that, you know, this is a Hindu-Muslim thing. Fact of the matter is, Waqf Board has existed in this country for the last 50 years. And every time there is a contentious dispute between Waqf and private individuals, those private individuals are well within their right to move court of law to contest the claims by the Waqf Board. You are now bringing this up after 50 long years, after the formation of Waqf Boards in this country, because you want to polarize the narrative. How would you respond to that, Rohan?
Zakka, how it is communal? If anybody's private property, as you remember in Bangalore, somebody's property which he owned from 1944, someday it is receives Waqf Board notice that the Waqf Board has right on this, and then he has to prove. Is it correct for any democracy? It is not. Why? If there are any rules in the democracy which are not correct, you are moving ahead with time and you are changing those rules, why it is taken from communal mindset? This is all about the mindset. This is the height of Muslim appeasement, where anything which is done against anybody is taken as appeasement. Why? Why you cannot see it from open mind that, okay, we have to stop misuse of certain law. If certain body is given an abundant power after democracy, we have grown now as a country, and if there are corrections are required, new resolutions are required, why the people are against that? How it is communal? Is it against Muslims? And even after being Waqf Board having 9 lakh acres of land, you tell me how many Muslims are getting benefited out of that? No one. So if the government is ready to ensure that these laws are changed, to ensure that people who require the benefit are given benefit. Why these people are making it communal issue? Because the minority, the community, even Muslims have subcaste. They are not getting benefited out of current work board. If are they above the collector? Are they above the law of land? No. If there are certain reforms which are required as the time grows, it should not be seen from communal angle.
Okay.
This is the height of appeasement politics of opposition.
Okay, Vivek Bansal, the problem is that the power granted to the Waqf boards under sections 40 of the Waqf Act, which basically allows the Waqf board to declare any property as held by the Waqf, therefore prone to litigation by the private individuals who may have been holding that land for generations. This issue, section 40 of the Waqf Act, has been misused in the past, and critics argue what this allows is the enabling of arbitrary claims of land. It creates conflict and legal disputes with stakeholders who have controlled this land for a number of years. If somebody wants to bring in a reform to amend section 40 of the Waqf Act, which is arbitrary, which is powers that are beyond reasonable means to a non-elected, non-democratic entity, then what is wrong with that?
Well, let me just tell you, whatever you are saying, this section 40, I had represented a leaguer in the Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council, and in a leaguer there is lot of Waqf properties there. I can tell you with my personal knowledge, nothing in this misuse of Article 40 in Waqf Act has not taken place, and not at all taken place. On the contrary, Waqf keeps on fighting wherever it may be, partially being misused or they try to over-exercise their authority and all, but they are not able to do anything. They are not able to rest that property.
Mr.
So
Bansal, let me point to you the example of what happened in Karnataka recently, which is not a BJP ruled state. It's a Congress ruled state. 41 individuals, 41 farmers in Bijapur Taluk, in Bijapur district, in a particular taluk in Bijapur district in northern Karnataka, 41 farmers suddenly found themselves being issued notices by the state government's revenue department saying that this land is being claimed by a Waqf board. It became a huge issue. The media played it up. Everyone talked about it. Eventually, the government had to roll back on the claims of the Waqf board. This has happened in a Congress ruled state, not in a BJP ruled state.
No. That may have, India is such a huge country and such a diverse country. Waqf Act may be, it may be varying from state to state. I am not aware of that. But as far as misuse
the act is the same, all India. There's no change in act from state to state. The act is the same.
It may be. That's why I'm saying I'm completely amazed and in fact zapped by this information that this act is being misused by Waqf, and arbitrarily they are able to wrest control over any individual's property. So at least in Aligarh there are no such examples.
Mr. Bansal, I am asking you a simple question. Can you cite an example of a Sikh board or a Christian board or a Buddhist board or even a Hindu board which has this kind of oversized power, that they can suddenly say, okay, this land is ours, and thereafter, the state is then forced to send notices to people who may have held that land for generations? Any other religion that you can think of?
No. You see, it's not a question of any other religion or any other religious board. We had been having this Waqf Act for years together, and whatever the policy of that point of time when the forefathers had enacted this constitution, and whatever the consensus must have emerged as a consequence of the deliberations, this was enacted.
So, Mr. Bansal, one second, Mr. Bansal, see, you have to have a certain rationale for this argument. If it is about protection of minority rights, then you should cite the examples of such acts in other religions as well, other minority religions as well. But you can't. There is no such provision in any other minority religion. It's only for Muslims. It's only for the Waqf board. And it is arbitrary powers. That's the problem.
arbitrary powers, you see, I do not know this ruckus has been that about arbitrary powers. I'm completely, I'm completely oblivious of this, except for the
Sir,
fact now,
I
now this
gave you
thing
the
has emerged.
example of what happened in
No,
Karnataka.
no,
There
no.
is examples
You
of
may
what is
have given
happening
up.
in Himachal Pradesh.
Just,
There are
just
examples of what's happening in Uttar
swallow,
Pradesh.
one
Numerous examples
swallow
across
that.
the country where Waqf is coming out and claiming property which has been held for generations by non-Muslims and saying that this is our property. But Ishkaran, let's talk about the legality of this. No, one second, Mr. Bansal, one second, please. Let me go to Ishkaran. As per certain estimates, 7% of all immovable property across India is claimed by Waqf. Now, the problem is that once the Waqf claims this under Section 40 of the Waqf Act, which allows them to declare any property anywhere in India as Waqf property, then that leads to arbitrary claims over the land concerned. It creates conflicts, it creates legal disputes, and frankly, this whole business of discrimination, like you cannot cite a similar example from any other religion, Hindu, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist, whatever.
Zakka, you have put out the absolute correct position of law. It is a power unique to the Waqf Board, not available to any other religion, including minority religions. A Christian cannot have a board like this which can declare a property as his own and then get the state machinery into action to get possession of that property. Nor can a Sikh, nor can a Jain, nor can a Buddhist. Nobody else can do that. This is unique to it. And this law has to go, but one other point which is very interesting, in spite of having the largest probably private in a sense land holding, non-government land holding, still there is a demand for Muslim reservation because in a sense it has not benefited the poor Muslim also, though that is not the ground for it to go. The grounds are manifold. Some of the grounds why it should go is, you are giving example of Karnataka or Tamil Nadu or Himachal. Delhi itself, when Britishers were building it as a capital, they acquired a lot of properties, paid compensation, mutated the properties, constructed buildings on them, and it is all documented because compensation was given. Then later on, Congress government in 84 says, no, we will give this land in the heart of Delhi, Lutyens Delhi, to the Waqf Board. The people went to court, the court stayed that order. Then again, before going in 2014, they tried to do that, and that matter is pending. So places where compensation has been paid, vital assets of the government of India, heart of Delhi, are being claimed under this Waqf Act. And it is a unique code because not only do you claim, you get the state to pay for the survey. The ordinary law is, if you believe it's your property, you go to court, you show documents, you show how you are entitled to it, you get an order from the court, and then you try to get it executed. Here it is completely the reverse. The board, consisting of Muslims, can decide that this is our property, issue notice, and in law, the minute you issue that notice, the person will not be able to sell it, will not be able to create a third party interest in it. That is what will happen day one. Day one, you can own a property for 100 years, but once this is issued, it is a property under litigation. Without any court order, just by this Waqf Board.
Let me explain this to our viewers, what Ishkaran is saying, by giving you an example. Now, there's a place called Munambam in Kerala. For the last few months, this has become a disputed property between the Waqf Board in Kerala and fisher folk community who've been living there for 3, 4, 5 generations. It's about 400 acres of land. It's off the coast of Cochin. Munambam, suddenly this whole issue has flared up because the Waqf Board has come out and said that this land is originally belonging to them. Now, there are 600 families, a large number of them are Christian, some of them are Hindu, 600 families who've been living in Munambam Island for a number of generations, 2, 3, 4 generations altogether. And suddenly in the last few weeks, last few months, the Waqf Board has come out and claimed that land. Now my point is, no other community has this kind of almost extra judicial rights where they can come out and claim any land as Waqf land. No other community has this. Number two, if the people who are residing there for generations upon generations have, documents and papers and land documents to prove that that land belongs to them, then how is it that you have this almost extrajudicial authority or power in a body that's vested to come out and say that, look, this is within our remit and that this now needs to be litigated? Who bears the cost of that litigation? Ultimately, it boils down to the people who've held this land for generations together. So, the problem, Ishkaran, is this is a very imbalanced law. The Waqf can claim any property which is yours or mine or 600 families who've been living in this Munambam island. Now, it's the onus is upon you or me or those families to prove that we have the documents, the original land deed and sale deed and so on, for generations to prove that this is our land.
Yes. Zakka, it is worse than an extrajudicial body. It is in effect a state within a state with all the powers of a state, because the officers here have the power of a civil court. Then section 85 bars the jurisdiction of civil court. As I was saying, the minute they claim the property is there, then the owner, generational owner, has to run from pillar to post. If he has some need, he cannot sell that property, because it has in a sense become a disputed property in which a legal body, because it's an act, has said that it belongs to them. That property effectively cannot be sold. That could take 20, 30 years. Even if you have the money to fight the case, go to tribunal, go to high court, win the case. How many people in India have the power to fight such orders against such bodies with the resources needed to fight it? And last point, I will just finish. The ordinary laws, Zakka, against it, whether you are a mandir, you are a church, you are anything, you're a gurdwara, if you believe a land is yours, even a religious institution, you have to go and prove your case in a court of law. Here it is a body which says there is a concept of waqf by user. So if 20 years somebody is not looking at a property, you could tomorrow come and say waqf by user and it is my property. That is why Mr. Owaisi had to say that out of 1,50,000 acres or some big number, 70-80% is waqf by user. Waqf by user means what? That because I am using it and you are not paying attention and I don't even know whether I am using it or not, I can claim property. This code has to go out, I believe, lock, stock and barrel, but at the very least it needs significant amendments to it to come in par with the other laws of India.
The other issue is that despite owning substantial land assets, Rohan Gupta, across the length and breadth of this country, in fact, according to some estimates, the Waqf boards across the country from Kashmir to Kanyakumari own property worth 1.2 lakh crores. The fact that they have managed to generate a fraction out of this land, only a fraction of revenue or potential revenue out of this land, just about 150, 160 crores or so, also beggars the question, why should all this land worth potentially 1.2 lakh crore rupees be held by these Waqf boards when only 100 crores or so is being generated as revenue? Now, point is, everybody in India knows that India, particularly in the urban and semi-urban parts of this country, is resource starved, it is land starved, and there is a premium for land in this country. 1.2 lakh crores worth of land is in this land bank called the Waqf Board, but they are only generating 100 crores of revenue. That's not an optimum use of this land.
Absolutely. Zakka, see, that is the point here. You know, nobody is asking logical or relevant question. Because something is happening wrong for so many years, it should continue. No. Whenever you ask logical questions, Zakka, I have attended many debates on that. They always take it to emotional issue. हमारी मस्जिद ले रहा है, वो खत्म कर देंगे. अरे, this is amendment thing which has direct attack on any private property belonging to any caste. See, tomorrow it is not necessary that land will belong only to Hindu. It can be even to a Muslim who is a poor Muslim. उसकी land पे भी हो सकता है. आप उसको धर्म के एंगल से क्यों देख रहे हैं? You cannot bring politics in all reforms. That is the problem with opposition parties. This is Waqf Board Amendment Bill, where something which is wrong, something which is above Constitution needs to be brought down inside the Constitution. Don't you feel Waqf Board current powers are above our Constitution? Does our Constitution allow extraordinary power to anybody in this country? No. Once they are talking about the Constitution, the opposition parties, and if they are opposing
the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which has been formed to look into this, of course, is going into the merits of this matter. I believe they had one meeting, the last meeting that they had was yesterday, where the opposition members have said extend the tenure of the Joint Parliamentary Committee. The BJP members have said, why? What's the need for extending? We are ready with the report. Let's submit the report and let the Parliament take up this bill in the winter session. Winter session starts from Monday. Now, my point, Mr. Bansal, is if the Waqf Amendment Bill restricts the ability of Waqf boards to claim all and sundry property, restricts the ability of Waqf boards to get individual litigants to approach the court for disputes over properties. The claims made by the Waqf boards regarding land ownership, making it outdated, making it erroneous. The amendments that have been proposed also bring into effect non-Muslims into Waqf boards. If all of these have been proposed, and if BJP members are saying that the JPC is ready to submit its report before the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, and then eventually the two houses have to take a call on passing this bill, why should that be blocked, Mr. Bansal? Why should this extrajudicial authority decide which land is theirs and which land is somebody else's, and the onus is on that other person to go to court and prove his or her credentials to that land?
Mr. Jacob, it's not a question of blocking a particular, bill or basically the reservations which have been in the meetings which have been brought out by the opposition. There are always two sides of a coin. So they too have brought out certain reservations, certain apprehensions of the minority communities. So why these are not being addressed? Why they are being brushed aside? Or why the chairman of the Joint Parliamentary Committee is acting in a very.
If I can outline for the benefit of our viewers, Section 85 of the Waqf Act, as per that, the decisions by Waqf tribunals are final, cannot be contested in higher courts. Section 40, I've just mentioned, it places the burden of proof on the landowners to prove that they are the original inheritors of whatever land is contested by the Waqf Board. There was a 2013 amendment when the UPA 2 was in power, which scrapped the Supreme Court ruling, which removed a one-year limit. If there was any, Muslim body, Waqf Board coming and claiming a piece of land which was held by somebody else, then there was a ruling, a long-standing Supreme Court ruling which said within 1 year, one second, hear me out, please hear me out. There was a Supreme Court ruling which said within 1 year, the Waqf Board or the Muslim who was claiming that land as Waqf has to bring proof within 1 year to prove that this is Waqf land. That was taken away by UPA 2 in a 2013 amendment which was passed in both houses of the Parliament. Section 6 of the Waqf Act also said that the aggrieved parties have only 1 year to appeal the claims on the land. Within 1 year, you have to settle this. Section 3 allows the Waqf boards to claim land if they believe, and this is an overriding sort of section of the Waqf Act, allows the Waqf boards to claim any land if they believe that it belongs to a Muslim without having to produce the burden of proof in a court of law. How is that fair, Mr. Bansal?
You see, I'm not going into the merits that you are talking about these arbitrary, or the fact that Waqf may just try to own any property. That's not a question. That may be right, but anybody who is on a Waqf land must be having the requisite papers which entitles him to own that land, possess that land.
You see,
any land for that matter.
Ishkaran, there are two disparities that are stark here. One, no other religion has this oversized influence, oversized authority to claim any land as their land. And two, like I said, I can't think of any other section, you're a lawyer so you know better, any other section which places the burden of proof on the person who is the original, landowner. Or in this case, I mean, for want of a better phrase in criminal phraseology, the burden of the proof is placed on the accused, not on the prosecution.
Absolutely. Zakka, criminal laws are separate, so nowadays we have some anomalies in criminal law, but in property law, the burden cannot be on somebody who is seeking possession without documents, but something more important. We just heard a Congress spokesperson saying, or so a Congress representative saying, that certain reservations, certain problems, if I am a dacoit and I have property with me and police comes to take property from me, the dacoit might have certain reservations. Please spell out A, B, C reservation, and then Zakka, as you're asking whether it is fair or not, you can see. For example, I'll just do example. Should you not be an owner before you dedicate a property to Waqf? You cannot create a title better than a title you have. What is this concept of Waqf by user? You have to be an owner before you create a Waqf. Here we are having concepts like if there is a public park and you tomorrow say we were using it, nobody objected to it, can it become a waqf property? And can you then claim it as my property, not the government's property, not the community's property? Can you claim that? So waqf by user has to go. Or you take, why should the state pay for it? Why should the survey be done at the cost of the state? It is for your purpose. You spend it like any other institution, even religious institution in this country does. Or if you are coming to the very basics, how are you barring the jurisdiction of civil courts in this? And Zakka, the reality of India is we still struggle with access to justice. The minute Waqf Board order comes, do you think a person living in a village has the access to justice, the resources, the money to contest it? Half the times they let go of the property. That is the reality of this country, and that is why this law needs to go. Come in line with every other law of this country. It was a naked appeasement bid.
If you look at what happened in Karnataka, 41 farmers, these are poor farmers, albeit they held on to this land holdings for a number of generations. The reason why, the government piped down and the Waqf Board piped down is because it came to the media, and the media, made an issue of it and went to town about it. That's why the government had to roll back the notices sent to those 41 farmers. Now, God knows how many other such cases there are. In Munambam, for example, in Kerala, 600 Hindu and Christian families have been living in this island for generations. And suddenly in 2024, the Waqf Board comes and says, oh, this land, by the way, happens to be ours. And the onus is not on the Waqf Board. The onus to prove that the land belongs to them is on these families that have been residing there for generations. Now, that is a completely bizarre situation. It, turns the law on its head, if I might use that phrase. But we'll leave it at that. Rohan Gupta, Ishkaran Mandari and Mr. Bansal, thank you for joining us.